Next, on Currents News, how Our Lady of Sorrows Catholic Academy in Corona, Queens is going the extra mile for parents and students adapting to the new way of learning this school year. And caught in the act, the search for this man who desecrated a statue of the Blessed Mother at a church in Brooklyn. And the fury of Hurricane Sally, the powerful storm slams into Alabama and Florida, bringing widespread damage and flooding. Plus, faith and love, the remarkable story that began in Brooklyn 40 years ago, and why this couple says they will never forget their roots. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. There are so many new challenges facing parents, teachers, and students this school year. Whether it's in school or remote learning or a hybrid form, everyone has to adapt. But one school, Our Lady of Sorrows Catholic Academy in Corona, Queens, is doing what it can to make it a little easier. Currents News' Jessica Easthope shows us how.
Here is Mommy. There you go.
As schools in the Brooklyn diocese began reopening, it was obvious there was no one-size-fits-all plan.
Good morning, Our Lady of Sorrows.
Our Lady of Sorrows Catholic Academy in Corona, Queens opened under a hybrid model, but they put their own spin on it. Parents can choose whether they want to send their kids into school or not every 30 days.
It just accommodates the parents. They're going back to work, and it's wonderful. It really is. And they know they can bring their kids to school.
The school's model is a reflection of Corona's 15% unemployment rate. For the parents who are now back at work after being unemployed for months, the only option is to send their kids to school. Right now, about 60% is doing in-person learning.
I've delivered food. I've even gone into my own pocket to buy food for family in need. And we want to make sure that they're able to feed their families.
Are you taking any medicine?
Parents who opted for in-person learning say they're breathing a sigh of relief.
I have the option to keep her at home. Every 30 days I have the option to change it. I can do that, work around my work schedule.
Who are the characters?
Stacey Nieves has most of her kindergarten class in school with her. Though the hybrid model has been challenging, she says she pushes through for the sake of her kids.
The first thing that we need is patience. And I need to make sure that my class comes first and my kids are okay, and then we'll move on.
That one's good.
As for the parents who are still helping to teach their kids at home alongside their virtual classes, they're asking for the same.
It's all about having a little bit more patience and understanding.
Kathy Duran's parents are visiting from the Dominican Republic.
Did you have visitors from somewhere else go to your house?
Which means her 5-year-old daughter Sophia would have to answer yes and would be sent home from school.
You always have that option, to switch it in a couple of weeks, whereas other schools are doing it, all in or nothing.
Our Lady of Sorrows is expecting 80% of students to return to school by October 1st. In Corona, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
A beloved image of the Blessed Mother has been desecrated in Brooklyn. The NYPD is looking for this man in connection to the incident at the Shrine Church of Our Lady of Solace in Coney Island last Friday. According to police, the man knocked down the church's statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe and then proceeded to pick it up and throw it onto the sidewalk. The suspect then fled the scene. So far, no one has been arrested in connection to the incident. The church says the statue cost around $4,000. The parish is hoping to rebuild and rededicate the statue by the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe on December 12th. If you would like to donate to that effort, just send a check to the church. That's at 2866 West 17th Street in Brooklyn. The zip code is 11224. Make the check out to the Shrine Church of Our Lady of Solace. We'll repeat this for you at the end of the show. A large-scale movement run by the Catholic Church will now be moved online. The Fifth Encuentro began in 2013 as a way to get more Hispanic and Latino Catholics active within their church. While the entire process has been marked by large gatherings, this year's National Encuentro celebration will take place online on October 9th and 10th. The virtual meeting will help parishes implement the findings of the Fifth Encuentro process. The Catholic Health Association is weighing in on a COVID-19 vaccine and how it should be distributed and who should get it. The group, which oversees more than 2,200 Catholic hospitals, nursing homes, and long-term care facilities, says before distribution, the vaccine must be scientifically effective and safe. It must also be equitably distributed with priority to those most at risk, and it must respect human dignity in its development. When restaurants reopen in New York City, it will cost more to enjoy your meal. The City Council gave the green light on legislation that adds 10% to a customer's bill as a COVID-19 recovery charge. It's intended to help restaurants that have suffered during the pandemic to get their businesses back on track. Only small restaurants can apply the surcharge. Large chains can't. Restaurants will be limited to 25% capacity when they reopen on September 30th. For the first time since the pandemic hit back in March, restrictions on in-person visits at nursing homes is being relaxed. This comes just days after a rally by relatives of nursing home residents outside Governor Andrew Cuomo's Manhattan office. Under the new policy, limited visitation will be allowed at facilities that have been without a positive COVID case for at least 14 days. That's half of the 28-day rule that was in place since July, which critics and family members called too restrictive. Furloughs are coming to the mayor's office to help fight New York City's multi-billion-dollar budget crisis. Mayor Bill de Blasio announced today that his entire office, including him, will take a week off unpaid. Close to 500 City Hall employees will take the leave at some point between October 1st and March of 2021. The savings is expected to be $860,000. The city is facing a $9 billion budget shortfall because of the pandemic. President Trump says the U.S. is rounding the corner with the coronavirus, but health experts disagree. Some say the country isn't ready for some of the hazards ahead. John Lawrence reports.
The coronavirus is known to have infected more than 6.5 million people in the U.S. over the past 6 months, according to Johns Hopkins University.
This is the worst public health crisis in our lives.
And the next few months may be even more difficult.
It just makes me sick to know what we could have been as a nation and what we are today.
Health experts say in addition to COVID-19, the U.S. is facing a triple challenge of the upcoming flu season, colder weather, which drives people indoors and increases risk of spread, and outbreaks as more students return to schools.
We see around the globe countries successfully getting this under control and getting people back to work. And public health knows the path to get there, but we're not doing that.
As the U.S. is currently averaging about 35,000 new COVID-19 cases per day, drug maker Pfizer is working on phase 3 trials for a coronavirus vaccine. And CEO Albert Bourla told CBS's Face the Nation, Pfizer may know by the end of next month if it works.
Now, having a vaccine is good, but we're rounding the turn regardless. We're rounding the turn. And it's happening. I mean, it's happening. You see it.
In the meantime, people are still advised to wear masks and to maintain social distancing.
As we're waiting for a vaccine, we know what we can do. Other countries have done it. We should too.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
A big event happening this fall will be the November elections, and there are questions tonight about Joe Biden's push for the Catholic vote. The Democratic presidential nominee announced a new coalition Monday called Catholics for Biden, and some of the panel's co-chairs are defenders of abortion. One of them, Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, ran as Hillary Clinton's VP pick in 2016. He has said that despite his personal opposition to abortion, he supports legal protections for the procedure. Biden, a Catholic himself, has pledged to codify abortion into law. Meantime, President Trump has had to answer for his choices in person. At a socially distanced town hall in Philadelphia Tuesday night, he was confronted by undecided voters about allegations that he minimized the threat of the coronavirus.
Well, I didn't downplay it. I actually, in many ways, I upplayed it in terms of action. My action was very strong. Yeah, because what I did was with China, I put a ban on. With Europe, I put a ban on. And we would have lost thousands of more people had I not put the ban on.
President Trump went on to say he thought there could have been 2 million COVID deaths had they not closed the country. It is being called the dawn of a new Middle East, and moving forward, it's possible more Arab nations will follow Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates in opening up diplomatic relations with Israel. The Trump administration helped broker the agreements, and leaders from all three nations joining President Trump at the White House for the signing ceremony. Currents News' Jessica Easthope reports on the impact of the deal.
Israeli military jets attacked targets in Gaza after Palestinian militants fired rockets from there, injuring 2 people. This less than 24 hours after leaders from the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain signed a landmark deal at the White House, normalizing relations with the State of Israel.
These agreements will serve as the foundation for a comprehensive peace across the entire region.
The so-called Abraham Accord establishes ties with much of the Arab world, including embassies, enhanced security partnerships, and increased business deals and travel. The agreement is a win for the Trump administration and Israel's longest-serving Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, who marked it as the dawn of the new Middle East.
Let us rise above any political divide. For long after the pandemic is gone, the peace we make today will endure.
The Bahraini foreign minister expressed his support for ongoing dialogue, urging other Arab nations to move beyond the divisions of the past.
For too long, the Middle East has been set back by conflict and mistrust. Now, I'm convinced we have the opportunity to change that.
Before the signing, Israel only had diplomatic ties with 2 other Arab nations, Jordan and Egypt. This agreement opens the door for other countries to come on board.
Often the case in complex situations, we don't really know all the angles, but that shouldn't keep us from trying.
While many of the details are still unknown, experts say the alliance against Iran has been strengthened. And while the Palestinians have rejected it, the agreement has far-reaching implications for the entire Middle East region.
The implications of new peace between 2 Gulf states and the state of Israel, it's true, cynics will say, could mean nothing, but it could also be a complete game changer for the region.
For now, Israel will halt plans to annex Palestinian land in the West Bank as the Trump administration tries to bring Palestinians back to the negotiating table. Palestinians are calling the deal a betrayal. Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
An update on a story first brought to you by Currents News. The Conservative Party of New York State has been kicked off of Twitter again. This is now the 4th time this year their account has been shut down. The latest deactivation lasted over 2 months, leaving them unable to tweet during a critical time in the election season and through both party conventions. The handle just got back online last week without any explanation. Twitter has claimed that the Conservative Party's account was flagged as spam by mistake. Currents News is still waiting for a response from Twitter on this latest development. The Conservative Party of New York State has over 150,000 registered members. After an 18-month investigation, a congressional committee is blasting Boeing over its handling of the 737 MAX program. The House Transportation Committee published its report Wednesday. It details how investigators say Boeing intentionally downplayed the significance of the flight control system that the report concludes led to 2 crashes. According to the report, there were missed opportunities by the company to prevent the crashes. That simulator training for the plane wouldn't be required for many pilots did indeed make the aircraft less safe. All 737 MAX planes were grounded after 2 separate crashes that killed 346 people in October 2018 and shortly after in March 2019. There's a lot more news headed your way. Hurricane Sally roared ashore in Alabama, causing extensive flooding and damage. How Catholics can step up and help out. Plus, the pandemic and migrants. Pope Francis believes the crisis has only made it worse for refugees seeking safety. We'll hear their harrowing stories firsthand. And later, theirs is a love story born in Brooklyn. We'll meet the couple who marked 40 years of wedded bliss by taking a unique trip to the old neighborhood. Hurricane Sally is pummeling southern Alabama and Florida at this hour, prompting water rescues and threatening catastrophic flooding as the storm crawls at a destructively slow pace. Some locations are seeing up to 20 inches of rain, and a few places are approaching nearly 3 feet of floodwaters. Chris James has the latest as Sally moves inland.
With winds of 105 miles per hour, Hurricane Sally slammed into the U.S. Wednesday morning, pummeling southern Alabama and the Florida Panhandle as it slowly crawls further inland, moving northeast, threatening catastrophic flooding.
I will tell you it's bad. It's going to take a considerable amount of time to clean up from this.
In Escambia County, Florida, a section of the 3-mile bridge that connects Gulf Breeze to Pensacola is missing. Damage being seen elsewhere as well, with many roads flooded, power lines down, trees toppled.
We just heard a loud thud hit the house and vibrated the wall where we were sleeping. And her grandma woke up screaming that something fell on the house. I mean, it was just scary.
With Sally's slow pace, generally 3 miles per hour, some areas have already collected more than 24 inches of rain and could receive up to 35 inches by the storm's end.
Right now, the conditions are very dangerous. We have been receiving calls through our 911 center that there's a lot of requests, but at this time, because of the high winds, because of the amount of flooding that we're seeing, our responders right now are having to stage because it's so dangerous.
Nearly 27 million people from the Gulf coasts of Virginia now under flood or flash flood warnings as Sally continues to spiral. From Mobile, Alabama, I'm Chris James, Currents News.
The dangers of the deadly wildfires along the West Coast are being highlighted tonight. This video released by a California fire department documenting the first 12 hours of the flames' destruction. That destructive creek fire in the Sierra National Forest has charred more than 220,000 acres of land. Authorities say it is currently only 18% contained. Scientists are also confirming vast amounts of that thick smoke are reaching parts of northern Europe. If you would like to help those affected by the wildfires, hurricanes, and any other recent natural disasters, you can donate at CatholicCharitiesUSA.org. Again, that's CatholicCharitiesUSA.org. 6 people are in custody tonight over the fire that destroyed the largest refugee camp in Europe on an island Pope Francis once visited. The fire erupted in Lesbos last week and it burned down the entire camp. All the suspects, including 2 minors, are Afghan nationals. 13,000 people were taking refuge there, but now they're living in tents set up along the coast. Greek authorities believe the fire was deliberately lit after quarantine measures were imposed following the discovery of some COVID cases. Pope Francis has urged the world to keep these refugees in their prayers. The plight of refugees is a crisis the Holy Father has used his papacy to highlight. Though it has been overshadowed by the coronavirus crisis, Pope Francis believes that the pandemic has only exacerbated the situation of migrants. Refugees continue to flee violence and, as Jomana Karache reports, continue to risk their lives to get to safety.
This is the new pattern. A Greek Coast Guard vessel right on the edge of Turkish waters.
The crew's telling us that they've just gotten information about a possible pushback incident. Migrants and refugees possibly on a life raft.
The Greek ship is moving towards its own waters. It's now fleeing towards Lesbos.
The Turks mobilize for a sea rescue with the added risk of COVID-19. Now it's a race against time. These waters have already claimed too many lives. They spot the motorless life raft drifting.
Take the rope. Take the rope. Grab the rope and don't let go.
One by one, they emerge. 11 in total, barely able to stand. Cold, wet, and exhausted, they huddle together at the back of the boat.
Says you really don't want to know what they have done to us.
Still in shock, they recount how they made it to the Greek island of Lesbos 2 days earlier. But they were caught by Greek authorities. They say their belongings and money taken.
He grabbed me from my neck and started hitting me. They put a knife to my husband's stomach and they held a gun to my son's head.
They were forced on a boat and abandoned at sea. Fatima says her family fled a hopeless Lebanon. They've tried the sea crossing 5 times in the past 6 months. This was the first time they had reached Greek soil. Human rights advocates and the United Nations Refugee Agency have documented many similar accounts since March. Watchdog groups accusing Greece of violating human rights obligations by expelling asylum seekers, at times leaving them adrift at sea for hours.
That was Jomana Karache reporting. The Greek government denies that they're sending back migrants and refugees. They say authorities are guarding the borders according to the rules of international law. In the United States, Catholic aid groups are speaking out against a court decision that furthers the end of temporary protected status for nearly 400,000 immigrants. Catholic Charities USA is urging Congress to find solutions that help families affected by TPS to remain in the United States. TPS currently allows immigrants to live and work legally in the U.S. after fleeing conflict or natural disasters in their home countries. The administration could expel people from Sudan, Nicaragua, and Haiti as soon as March, and from El Salvador by November 21st. The case is likely to be appealed to the Supreme Court, which could delay the outcome. Still to come on Currents News, the special story of a couple who met and married in Brooklyn and the unique way they celebrated their romance 40 years later. And you might say it's the Super Bowl of gender reveals. Holy Cross alum and Buffalo Bills safety Dean Marlowe and his wife take it to the gridiron. Their romance began in Brooklyn, and 40 years later, one couple decided to celebrate that milestone with a walk down memory lane, revisiting the old neighborhood and reliving their love and faith. Currents News' Emily Drewby brings us this love story.
That's like that picture of us getting in the limousine.
This is Barbara and Mario Bellomo on their wedding day in 1980. And this is them now. The Catholic couple retraced their wedding day steps on their anniversary.
We grew up in Brooklyn. We did so many things in Brooklyn. Nostalgia keeps you alive.
They were married on August 23rd, 1980, after meeting 5 years prior at a disco in Bay Ridge.
I met Mario there. That's where I met.
It was her first big night out.
It was my first big night out ever, and I met him there. Yeah. So he was my.
I noticed her sweetness. She was so shy and pleasant and calm.
40 years of marriage, trips, graduations, children, and now even grandchildren.
We just like to go in the car and go places.
Yeah.
Which we still do now.
Yeah, it's true. Every day is like an adventure, really. It really is.
Know.
Even when we had our children and all, it was always, it was nice.
And you have to do things together. That's the key thing.
So for their anniversary adventure, the couple decided to go back and recreate one of their happiest days.
And that's outside that was outside the church now.
Starting at Our Lady of Angels Church in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, where they were married. The couple took a trip down memory lane and the aisle. It's the church where Barbara was baptized and where her parents were married too. Next, the couple stopped by their catering hall and Marcy's photo studio where they had their wedding photos taken. Both businesses have since been replaced, but that didn't ruin the happy day.
And even though things change and neighborhoods change, it makes you feel good. It's just nice. It's nice to remember those moments as to who you were.
Because for this strong couple, this strong team, they'll always have the memories, and they'll always have each other. In Staten Island, Emily Drewby, Currents News.
And finally tonight, a precious moment in the end zone that is just the beginning. Football and family with a touch of faith. Dean Marlowe, a safety for the Buffalo Bills and a graduate of Holy Cross High School in Flushing, Queens, made it to the big leagues, and now he's about to raise a little girl. He and his wife did a gender reveal at the Bills Stadium, followed by applause and, of course, that pink smoke. The baby is due to arrive in March. How exciting. And that is Currents News. Once again, if you'd like to help rebuild the Our Lady of Guadalupe statue in Brooklyn, just send a check to the Shrine Church of Our Lady of Solace. That's at 2866 West 17th Street in Brooklyn, the zip code 11224. And make sure to make the check out to the Shrine Church. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.